Hey guys, Rich here from Lifted Off Road, and I am testing a new plug that I am going to be installing on a customer's Jeep. It is a plug. Sorry for the camera angle. I've got my tripod up on one of my service carts, and right now it's about the best I can do. But what we got here is a plug. This plugs into the back of the ignition coil, and I've got myself a little over a foot of wire to play with. And if you've watched the previous video, I was describing to you the reason for doing this. The problem is, on the plug that is in the Jeep currently, these wires back here, when you wiggle them, they lose connection and it shuts off the engine. So I've got this one that I need to test to make sure these connections are still good, because I don't have a tool that I can remove the terminals out of this and, you know, actually fix the terminals themselves. I did order one last night though, some terminal extractor tools. So hopefully in the future I will be able to actually take the wires out of plugs like this, fix the terminal itself without having to hack off and splice the wires themselves, because I really don't like doing that unless I have to. But in this case I don't have much choice. So what I'm doing is, I've got it just now occurred to me, I'm pretty sure this plug matches the one that I need, but I better go over there and check to make sure it is in fact the same plug. I will be right back. Okay, we're in luck. This plug does fit on the back of the ignition coil. The only difference I've seen so far is the green wire here. On this plug it is a green with black stripe. On the Jeep it is a green with, I want to say, a red or orange stripe. And this other wire is just, it looks like it's just plain gray. So anyway, I digress. Reason for this video is to show you guys how to test something like this to make sure it is still a good wire. So what I've got here is my digital multimeter, and I have it set. Let's see, let's zoom in without fiddling with the camera too much. What I've got here is my digital multimeter, and I have it set to resistance. I've got you press the blue button there, it makes the continuity tone sound up, and we're ready to do testing. So what we're doing is basically using our test leads, which I've got right here. What we're doing is to make sure the plug is right. So you turn on your meter and you touch it. I don't know if you can hear that or not. And you can also read the resistance in ohms. Let's see. There we go. 0 ohms, and that's what it should be. Well, 0 to 0.1. If my fingers weren't twitching, it would probably read 0. So, what we got here, I got myself a little push pin of sorts that I think was custom made from one of my previous jobs in the past dealing with wiring harnesses. I used to be a tester at a manufacturing plant. We manufactured wiring harnesses for aircraft, actually. So we made little pins like this. Well, let me get to do our testing. And this one just happens to fit in the end of the plug right there. So I'll stick that in the end, and that corresponds with the green wire. Let me zoom back out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. That's a little bit better. So that plug, that terminal corresponds with the green wire on the clip. I plug that in, and I have a reading. Show you guys the meter, and it's reading 0.1, kind of 0.2, and a lot of that has to do with the actual looseness of the test lead. But what I'm looking for is a significant change in the readings. So I've got that plugged in. I can hear the tone, so I know I've got continuity. And what I do is I go through the wire, I wiggle it. You gotta try to keep this connection firm, or else you'll get false readings. So I gotta keep that stable so it's in constant contact inside the plug with my finger right there. And what you do is you'll wiggle the wire, and at the same time you look at the meter itself to look for any drastic changes in the resistance reading. So I'm going down, it's still 0, fluctuating between 1 and 0. And I'm at the end and nothing changed. So that tells me that this is in fact a good connector that I can use. Now go to the other one, switch that. Gotta do the same thing with this wire. Get that over here, and you can hear the tone. I can hear the tone. I hope you guys can hear the tone. And what you do is you do the same thing with the other side. You fiddle with it. You look at your meter for drastic changes. Fiddle with the wire. What you're doing here is looking for breaks or opens in the wire itself. And I'm not getting anything, so it stays constant throughout the length of this wire. That tells me that this is a good plug. So unplug this, unplug that. According to that resistance test, continuity test, this plug is a good one. I can cut off the old one. Probably, I don't know how much I'm gonna cut off. I don't want it to be too short, but I don't want it to be excessively long either. So I'll probably cut it off about yay far, maybe several inches. It's always better to have too much than not enough, right? Especially if I screw up soldering these splices together, I might end up having to cut the wire shorter. I'm not a professional solderer, soldering technician. I know how to solder, but I don't do it every day. So anyway. So yeah, that's how you would check a plug connector. Let's turn the meter off. That's how you would check a plug connector for continuity. Make sure it's still a good plug. And let me pull this out. And for you electronic people out there, the electronic multimeter checker people that like doing this kind of stuff, this is another plug that I rigged up at that job I was telling you about. It's like a dual banana pin. You stick the wires in the hole, or yeah, you stick the wires through the hole, run it up through, and I've got them soldered and marked with their positive and negative. And you always need at least a few feet of lead to do this with. And on the other end, of course, you've got your alligator clips. Most multimeters only come with little probe thingies, and this was something we made testing wiring harnesses that we've got, because we use alligator clips most of the time with our little pins on there that we rigged up. So you've got one little wire here. Instead of having two separate leads, you've got one connector that will plug into most multimeters. The holes are matched up just right. You just stick it in and it works. And that's cool. So there you have it, folks. This is Rich from Lifted Off Road, and that is how you check a used / new to us plug connector terminal for continuity and quality. Make sure it's still good. So have fun and be lifted. I'll see you next time. Later.